The first time a website asked me to prove I was me, I actually laughed. Not like a haha this is hilarious laugh, more that dry, exhausted little exhale you do when you're running on 3 hours of sleep and 4 hours of caffeine. The kind of laugh that's half this is stupid and half I don't have the mental capacity to be scared right now. I'm not a conspiracy guy. I don't think my microwave is listening to me. I don't tape over my webcam. I've spent enough time fighting with crusty university portals to know that if something is broken, it's usually because some dude got a government contract in 2008 and hasn't updated his code since Obama's first term. So when my tax portal decided to act weird, my first instinct honestly was just, yeah, that tracks. I needed a tuition statement. Simple. Log in, download the PDF, send it to my mom, pretend I understand anything about how student tax credits work. I'd done this exact thing, this exact dance with this exact website, at least 6 or 7 times before. I typed in my student ID, my password, hit enter. Everything loaded like normal. Ugly blue header, off-center logo, layout clearly designed by someone who hates both color theory and human eyes. And then I saw the CAPTCHA. Or, more accurately, I saw where the CAPTCHA should have been. It was just a white square. Blank. No grid, no squiggle letters, no click all the traffic lights. Nothing. Underneath it, there was a little spinning wheel. I waited, took a sip of coffee, checked my phone. The wheel stopped spinning. The box stayed empty. Then, above the box, in this small, clean sans serif font I didn't recognize from the rest of the ugly-ass site, a line of text appeared. Select all images that belong to you. I remember staring at that line and immediately starting to edit it in my head. Select all the images, my brain corrected automatically. Select all images that belong to you. Sounded like someone who didn't speak English quite right. Or like a machine translation someone never bothered to proofread. There weren't any images to select anyway. Just that white box. I hovered over it with my mouse. Nothing happened. I right-clicked. Nothing. I hit refresh. The whole page reloaded, except the weirdly clean text snapped back into place like it had been burned there. Select all images that belong to you. Yeah, okay, I muttered. Sure. I closed the tab, opened a new one, went to the site again. Logged in again. Same blank square, same sentence. I did the usual troubleshooting dance, the way you do when a site decides to be a pain. Tried another browser. Switched from Wi-Fi to data on my phone's hotspot. Cleared cache and cookies. The whole thing took like 20 minutes, and during all of it, I was mostly just irritated. Every time I got back to the login page, the CAPTCHA box sat there like it was waiting for me to blink first. Empty. White. That same line. Select all images that belong to you. Finally, I just closed it and leaned back in my chair. The room light flickered, because of course the crappy rental house wiring chose that moment to be dramatic. That annoyed me too. It didn't feel eerie yet. If anything, it felt like the universe had decided that the one thing it could still consistently fuck with was my ability to be responsible. I told myself I'd try again tomorrow, and went back to watching videos on my phone. Taxes could wait. They always did. The next day, I'd forgotten about it until my mom texted me 3 separate times in a row. Have you downloaded the form yet? They're doing early processing this year. Please don't wait last minute again. That last line had the passive-aggressive power of 10 suns. I sighed, closed out of Instagram, and opened my laptop again. Same dance. Student ID. Password. Enter. This time, the CAPTCHA actually loaded. Kind of. The box filled with a 3x3 grid like normal, 9 little squares, neat borders. But the images themselves were wrong. It was like someone had smudged Vaseline over the whole thing. Everything was impossibly blurred. Not pixelated, not out of focus, but smeared. You know when you wake up from a dream and you can sort of remember your house or your street, but when you try to pin it down, the details sort of slip sideways. It was like that, but visual, as if my eyes couldn't grab on to anything. Above the grid, the text had changed. Prove that you're the correct user. Okay, creepier, I muttered. I leaned closer. Each square looked like it contained something almost familiar. An angle of a ceiling, a street at night, the corner of a desk, a face maybe but pulled sideways like taffy. The more I tried to focus, the more my eyes refused to cooperate. I glanced away at the ugly blue header of the site, then back again. For a second, one of the squares sharpened. Tile 3, middle of the top row. My breath hitched. It was my bookshelf. Not a bookshelf. Mine. Exakt. Same cheap black metal from IKEA. Same layout because I'd spent an entire Saturday rearranging it instead of studying. Same crooked economics textbook I always told myself I was going to revisit someday, wedged slightly sideways because it didn't quite fit upright. The photo was taken from an angle I had never seen with my own eyes. Slightly from above and to the right, like someone standing halfway in my bedroom doorway, leaning in. I realized my hand was already moving to click it. The tiny white pointer hovered over that square, the phantom of a click building in the muscles of my fingers. I stopped, pulled my hand back. Fuck that. My heart was pounding in this stupid, disproportionate way. The logical part of my brain immediately tried to get out in front of it. Maybe the university site had access to photos I'd uploaded somewhere. Maybe they tied it into like some ID verification thing without telling anyone. Maybe it was a stock photo that just happened to look similar. But the angle, that angle, if I stood in my doorway, I couldn't see that particular line across the shelf. You have to be taller, or hold the phone higher, like you weren't worried about being seen. The hair on the back of my neck went cold. I closed the whole browser. Not even the tab, the entire window. The little beach ball spun for a second and disappeared. My desktop reappeared. My stupid wallpaper of a cat floating in space looked suddenly a lot more juvenile than it had yesterday. I told myself I was being ridiculous. It was a coincidence, a bug, a weird, badly tested feature, something explainable. And yet, for the rest of the day, every time I walked past my bedroom door, I looked at that bookshelf from the hallway and tried to find that angle with my eyes. I couldn't. That night, I stayed up too late again. Not because of the CAPTCHA, I just have garbage sleep habits. I'm a chronic scroll until 3 a.m. and hate myself later kind of person. Room dark, only the blue phone light blanket half over my head like that would somehow cancel out the eye damage. At some point, my laptop went to sleep on my desk. The tiny white power light pulsed like it was breathing. I left it plugged in. My fan hummed in the corner. Outside, a car door slammed and someone shouted something I couldn't make out. I was halfway through some guy's 40-minute video essay about sandwiches or fascism or something. I honestly don't remember when I heard the laptop wake up. It's a tiny sound that whir and click when the fans spin up and the hard drive decides to join the party. But when the entire house is quiet and your brain's already simmering in that half-dreamy late-night soup, it sounds too loud. I froze, thumb hovering over the pause button on my phone. The laptop screen, which had been faintly gray with sleep mode, brightened just a little. I hadn't touched it in hours. No scheduled updates. No downloads. No nothing. Then I heard another sound, one that made my stomach do this awful little flip. The soft, cheerful chime my browser makes when a site throws up a prompt. My brain did this clunky, tired sequence of rationalizations. Auto-update. Maybe Chrome opened, some tab reloaded. Maybe the tax site was still open somehow. Curiosity finally dragged me out of bed. My floor was cold as hell. I padded across it, phone in one hand, blanket trailing like a cape. The laptop was sitting there. Screen on, browser open. The tax portal page filled the screen. I hadn't opened it. I hadn't logged in. At the bottom of the page, the login fields were grayed out. Above them, the CAPTCHA box took up more space than it had before, as if it had grown. This time, there was no grid, no images, just that same unnaturally clean text, perfectly centered like someone had taken their time aligning it. Thank you. Verification in progress. I stood there, not breathing, that stupid blanket still around my shoulders. My own reflection stared back at me from the glossy black border of the screen. My hair was a mess. My eyes were red. I looked like shit. Something bright flicked at the top of the frame. The built-in webcam light had turned on. The little green LED glowed like an eye-opening. That was the moment actual fear cut through the caffeine haze. Not the ugh. This is creepy discomfort from earlier. Something sharper, primitive, because my laptop wasn't in any call. There was no Skype, no Zoom, no Discord video, nothing that had any reason to access the camera. The light stayed on, steady. I reached up and covered the webcam with my hand on instinct. Felt the warm plastic under my palm, the slight indentation where the camera was. I was about to tell myself I was being dramatic when the text on the screen flickered and changed. Obstruction detected. It felt like someone had just replied to me. My throat went dry. I didn't move my hand. If anything, I pressed it harder into the plastic. Another line appeared, letter by letter, like it was being typed. Do not interfere. Process is almost complete. The cursor blinked at the end of the sentence, like it was waiting to see if I'd argue. Time kind of stretched. The only sounds in the room were the laptop fan, whirring a little louder now, like it was straining, and the fan in the corner. From somewhere down the street, a car alarm trilled once and went silent. I realized my own heartbeat was loud enough that I could hear it thudding in my ears. I snapped the laptop shut so hard the hinge clicked. The green light vanished. The screen went black. The fan spun down with a tired whine. I stood there, hands still on the closed lid, waiting for something else to happen. Nothing did. Okay, I whispered. Okay. I unplugged the charger, picked up the entire laptop like it might bite me, and carried it across the room. Set it on the floor under a pile of laundry. Then I turned off the power strip that the desk was plugged into. It felt petty, like I was punishing it. I didn't open it again that night. I left my phone on the bedside table face down, watched the tiny blinking of the Wi-Fi router across the room, and tried very hard not to replay that sentence in my head. Do not interfere. Process is almost complete. I barely slept. Why did drift off? My dreams were this weird smear of half-loaded images. CAPTCHA grids made of hospital hallways and roads at night. The bookshelf again. A square of darkness that resolved into my own face, staring back at me in 9 slightly different angles. I woke up with my jaw clenched so tight it hurt. By the time morning sunlight leaked through the blinds, I convinced myself that I'd freaked out over nothing. Sleep deprivation and stress. Some stupid script on the page misfiring. I'd MacGyvered my own anxiety into a little tech ghost. I used my phone all morning without thinking about it. Scrolled group chats, ignored emails, checked my bank, my socials, all my usual apps. Everything worked like normal. No weird white squares. Around 11, my mom called and left a voicemail about deadlines and refunds, and I know you're busy, but this matters. I listened to it once and then stared at my desk from across the room. The pile of laundry over the laptop suddenly looked like a shroud. At noon, I gave in. I told myself I was being controlled by my own pride more than anything. I didn't want to admit that a broken CAPTCHA had spooked me enough to avoid my own computer. I dragged the laundry away, picked up the laptop. It was cold to the touch. For some reason, that detail made my skin crawl. I carried it into the kitchen instead of back to my room. I don't know why it felt safer there. Maybe the presence of the fridge and the ugly fluorescent light made it feel more real world, like the haunted shit couldn't follow me past my bedroom threshold. I set on the table, plugged it into a different outlet this time, like that mattered. Opened it. It woke up with that same little chime, cheerful as ever. The login screen appeared. My background photo loaded, the stupid cat in space again. No immediate ominous text box. I hesitated with my fingers over the keys. Then I typed in my password, opened the browser, and went to the tag site one more time. Everything looked normal. Login fields empty. No weird text. The CAPTCHA box was just a gray placeholder rectangle, waiting to load. My shoulders loosened a fraction. I exhaled. See? I muttered. Just a glitch. The rectangle flashed white. 9 squares appeared. 3 by 3 grid. Above them, the new line of text read, "Prove that you are the correct user." "Of course," I said. "Of course it does." This time the images weren't smeared. Not completely. They still had that dreamlike softness, but each one had a clear anchor point. Top left, a stretch of sidewalk under sodium orange streetlights. Could have been anywhere, but something about the pattern of the cracks in the concrete tugged at my memory. Middle, the corner of a kitchen counter. A chipped white mug. A roll of paper towels. A fridge covered in magnets. Bottom right, the edge of a bed covers half pulled back. The angle was low, like the picture had been taken from the floor. I leaned in, scanning each square. It was like playing a fucked up version of Where's Waldo with my own life. Third tile in the middle row. A bookshelf again. My bookshelf. No blur this time. The crooked economics textbook practically waved at me. I checked the other tiles. Second tile in the top row. The hallway outside my room. I recognized the dent in the drywall where my roommate had crashed into it moving a couch. Even the stain near the baseboard from where someone had spilled coffee last year showed up. Bottom middle, my bathroom sink. Same cheap chrome faucet with the little spot of rust on one side. Same black toothbrush holder. My toothbrush. Tilted. 9 little pieces of my life, all cut into squares and lined up neatly for inspection. My throat went tight. Above the grid, the instruction changed mid-blink. The words melted, reshaped. Select all images that belong to you. That phrase again, like it had been waiting. My hand shook over the trackpad. I felt completely exposed and also bizarrely guilty, like I'd been caught snooping in my own house. This is some kind of like two-factor thing, I told myself out loud as if narrating would make it true. They integrated some surveillance bullshit. They're pulling from, I don't know, Google, Apple, something. But I knew for a fact I didn't auto-back up my photos anywhere. I was the idiot who still manually moved them off my phone when it got full. Besides, these weren't my photos. The angles were wrong. The heights were wrong. In the hallway shot, the camera had to have been about 6 feet up. I'm 5'8" on a good day. Maybe it's AI. I added, like those creepy ads that generate a fake living room. That sounded even worse. I didn't click anything. I didn't want to silently agree to whatever the hell it was asking me to agree to. I closed the browser. I waited for the laptop to wake up on its own again that night. I don't know what I thought I'd do if it did. Film it? Throw it out the window? But midnight came and went and the laptop stayed asleep, its little light pulsing calmly under its laundry shroud. My phone stayed normal. No white squares. Instead, something even dumber happened. I started doubting my own memory. Had the webcam light really turned on its own? Had the text actually changed under my hand? Maybe I'd misread it. Maybe some script had bugged, and it was something boring like connection interrupted. You know that thing where you look at a word for too long and it starts to look fake? That's what the last 48 hours felt like. My day-to-day life was starting to feel like a fake word. I told myself, again, that I was overreacting. Then, on the third night, the laptop decided to cut out the flirting and go directly for the jugular. It was around 1 a.m. I was in bed again, phone in hand again, doomed scrolling out of habit. TikTok, Reddit, some meme group chat, rinse repeat. The blue glow turned my ceiling into a faint ghost of itself. From the corner of my eye, I saw the laptop's tiny white light go from pulsing to steady. I ignored it. The fan were kicked in, spun up higher than usual. I ignored that too, or tried to. My phone screen froze for half a second. My thumb tapped and nothing happened. A bright reflection flickered across the dark TV screen opposite my bed. Not from my phone, from the laptop. The cheerful little browser chime sounded again. Louder this time, or maybe that was just my nerves. My fingers tightened around my phone. I didn't mean to hold my breath, but I did. Very slowly, like I was trying not to startle an animal, I turned my head toward the desk. The laptop was open. I hadn't left it open. I remember that clearly. I closed it, put laundry on top of it. I could see the t-shirt I'd thrown over it earlier, now hanging off the back of the chair instead, as if someone had lifted it and then dropped it carelessly. The screen faced me. The room's dark made it look like a rectangle of floating light. My body moved before my brain finished processing. I swung my legs out of bed, padded over, each step sounding too loud on the cheap wooden floor. The tax site was open. Full screen this time. No tabs. No URL bar. Just white background. Login fields grayed out like I'd been logged in already and the session had timed out. The CAPTCHA box took up nearly half the screen. Thank you. Verification in progress. The letters were so sharp they almost looked engraved. The green webcam light shone steadily next to them. My stomach dropped. I glanced at the top right corner for the little camera icon that usually pops up when a site is using it. Nothing. No notifications. No alert. The cursor on the screen was moving. Not wildly. Not like in movies where hackers slam your mouse around. Just the subtle little wiggle of a pointer settling in the center of the CAPTCHA box, like a blink. Hey, I said, because apparently my survival instinct is to talk to weird shit. Stop. The fans whined louder. The edges of the laptop under my fingers felt warm. I reached up and covered the webcam again, this time pressing my thumb hard over the exact spot. The text blinked once and shifted. Obstruction detected. Yeah. I snapped, voice shakier than I wanted. What are you gonna do? Dock my refund? My hand was sweating. The plastic under my thumb grew hot. New text unfolded, word by word. Do not interfere. Process is almost complete. What process? I demanded. The cursor stuttered. For a second, it looked like it was trying to form letters on its own, jerking around inside the box. Then it went still. Nothing else appeared. Fine, imated. Fine. Instead of closing the lid this time, I pulled the power cord out first. The screen flickered, but it stayed on thanks to the battery. Whatever was happening clearly didn't give a shit about power saving settings. I held down the power button until my finger hurt. 10 seconds. 15. The fan screamed like a plane gearing up for takeoff. The green light stayed on. For a moment, I had this insane vision of the laptop refusing to turn off no matter how long I held the button. Of it growing hotter and hotter until the plastic warped around my hand. Until smoke started curling out of the vents. Then, all at once, everything went black. The fan cut. The light died. The screen went dark. I stayed there, bent over the desk, breathing hard, fingers still dug into the keyboard. My phone buzzed on the bed behind me, an innocent little vibration that made me jump like a gunshot. Fuck, I whispered. Fuck this. I didn't even bother with the laundry ritual this time. I picked the laptop up with both hands, carried it into the living room, opened the hall closet, and shoved it under a box of Christmas decorations. I didn't care if I cracked the casing. It landed with a dull plastic thud. Then I shut the closet door. The apartment suddenly felt too quiet, like every little noise would be amplified. I went back to my room and climbed into bed. My phone lay where I dropped it, screen still on. Some video had auto-played to the end. I locked it. The wallpaper, some photo I'd taken of a coffee shop months ago, flashed up and disappeared. I stared at the black screen for a long time before flipping it face down again. I'm done with tech for tonight, I told myself. Tomorrow I don't know, take it to IT, or a priest. I actually snorted at that. A priest for a CAPTCHA. Yeah, okay. Somehow, I did fall asleep. Morning came with the usual bells and whistles. Alarm blaring, light too bright, my mouth dry as if I'd swallowed dust. My first conscious thought was not the laptop, or taxes, or CAPTCHAs. It was coffee. I made some, scrolled while the machine hissed. The normalcy of it was like a sedative. Group chat memes. A notification from the campus app about a lost student ID. An email from my professor about an assignment extension. By the time I sat down at the table with my mug, the previous night had already filed itself under weird shit I overreacted to. I decided I'd deal with the laptop another day, or at least when I needed it for something urgent. For now, my phone felt safer, smaller, less likely to, I don't know, wake itself up and ask for my soul. Around noon, while I was lying on my bed, half dozing with YouTube playing quietly, my phone froze. At first, I thought it was just shitty connection again. The video stopped mid-frame. The audio stuttered and cut. The interface wouldn't respond to my swipes. I frowned and jabbed the home button. The video disappeared. For a second, the screen went totally white, as if the pixels had all agreed to erase themselves at once. Then a thin gray outline appeared in the middle. A square. My brain filled in the rest before it even finished drawing. The proportions, the placement. It wasn't from any app one recognized. It didn't have the usual rounded corner look of a notification. It was too plain, too clean. The outline vibrated faintly, like a watermark trying to push up through the paper. Then it divided itself into 9 smaller squares. 3 by 3, like always. My mouth went dry immediately. This wasn't a browser window. This wasn't even in an app. It was on top of everything, sitting directly on the OS like someone had peeled back the home screen and stuck it underneath. At the top, a line of text faded into view. Final verification needed. I didn't breathe. I didn't move. My first instinct was to hit the power button, to shut it off, to cut it off. My second instinct, the one that had apparently grown in the shadows of the last few days, whispered, "If you touch it, are you agreeing to it?" The grid loaded on its own. 9 images popped into existence all at once, crisp and high resolution, no blur, no smearing. They were all me. Top left, I was sitting at my desk, hunched over the laptop, face lit by the screen. The angle was from the doorway, slightly low, like the person taking it was leaning around the frame. Top middle, me on my bed, headphones on, eyes closed, mouth parted like I'd just about fallen asleep. The shot was from above my headboard, where there is no place to stand. Top right, a close-up of my face, eyes half-lidded, as if I just looked up from my phone and someone had said my name. Middle left, me brushing my teeth in the bathroom, foam at the corner of my mouth. The mirror didn't show a reflection of anyone behind me, but the photo clearly wasn't from my perspective. Center, me lying on my side, covers pulled up to my shoulders, hair half across my face. Asleep, the alarm clock on my bedside table read 3:17 a.m. Middle right, me in the kitchen, back turned, reaching up to the cabinet. The camera had to have been on the counter, perfectly still. Bottom left, me half-dressed, pulling a t-shirt over my head, body twisted. The edge of the frame cut off anything that would make it more graphic, but the vulnerability of it made my skin crawl. Bottom middle, me sitting on the floor next to my bookshelf, surrounded by laundry, laughing at something on my phone. The shot was from just above eye level, like someone standing right there. Bottom right, my face again, just my face. The expression was somewhere between confused and afraid. My eyes looked directly into the lens. Above the grid, the text updated. Confirm identity. A faint little checkbox icon appeared in the corner, waiting for my input. I dropped the phone. It landed on the bed, bounced, and flashed the grid up at the ceiling. My heart went berserk. I scrambled back, slammed my shoulder into the headboard hard enough to sting, and seriously considered just throwing the phone against the wall. Instead, I locked it. The screen went black immediately, like it had been waiting for an excuse. I sat there, gasping, my own pulse throbbing in my fingers. Pieces of logic tried to reassemble themselves in my head. These are photos. Photos have to be taken by something. You'd have heard someone in your room. You'd have seen something. Unless it wasn't someone. Unless it was the laptop, the phone, the TV, the cheap little IP camera in the living room I'd bought on sale last year and never set up properly, just used intermittently to check if I'd left the stove on. In my mind, the 9 images slid around, rearranging themselves. Like the grid was flexible, like it could make more squares if it needed. Above them, that sentence pulsed. Confirm identity. I understood, then on a level deeper than words, that the CAPTCHA wasn't asking if I was a human. It knew that already. It was asking if I agreed with what it had decided I was. I didn't unlock the phone again. I left it face down on the bed, then picked it up gingerly by the edges like it was a biohazard and put in a drawer. Closed the drawer, put a chair in front of the drawer. It was stupid and theatrical and made me feel marginally better. Then I grabbed my bag, my wallet, my keys, and got the hell out of the apartment. The cold air outside hit me like a slap. The street looked painfully normal. People walking dogs, cars going by, some guy arguing on speakerphone. The real world. No good eats. No floating text. I walked to campus because I didn't trust myself not to look at my phone if it was on me. My hands felt wrong without that familiar rectangular weight, like I'd forgotten some essential part. The university library is open stupid late during finals. Even midday, it hums with this low-level anxiety. People hunched over laptops, surrounded by energy drink cans and open textbooks. Printers whining in the distance. Someone typing too hard in the next row. I went straight to the computer lab in the basement. It's usually half empty. The fluorescent lights buzz. The PCs are all the same beige towers, labels peeling off. I picked a random station. Saturday. The chair creaked under me. For a second, I just stared at the blank login screen, wondering if the college IT had any idea what the fuck was happening out in their little corner of the internet. I log in with my student credentials. The machine whirred as my profile loaded. The desktop looked normal. I opened a browser, typed in Reddit, logged in. My fingers moved without thinking. I'm typing this on a computer in a library before I forego all my electronic devices to the secondhand market. I wanted to say, that sounded dramatic. I immediately deleted forego and replaced it with say goodbye to, because I realized I sounded like someone trying to impress their lit professor. I started over. I don't really know how to explain this without sounding like I'm exaggerating. I typed, but something incredibly weird has been happening with a CAPTCHA on a site I've used 100 times before. The words came easier after that. My brain had been chewing on them for days without my permission. They just spilled out. I described the blank box. The select all images that belong to you line. The blurry grid. The photo of my bookshelf from the impossible angle. The laptop waking itself. The webcam light. The obstruction detected. The phone. The final grid of myself. The longer I wrote, the more real it felt. Which was fucked up because it meant that until I wrote it down, some part of me had still been hoping I'd imagined it. I ended with, if you ever see a CAPTCHA asking you to identify yourself, I fear it's too late. My fingers hovered over the keyboard after that last line. I stared at it for a long moment, listening to the library printer spit out someone's essay behind me. I was about to hit post when the cursor on the screen jerked on its own. It moved down a line, typed a single additional word. Why? I froze. The word was in the same font as everything else. Same size, same color. To anyone watching, it would look like I'd typed it myself. My hands were in my lap. The cursor blinked. The W felt bigger than it was. I glanced up slowly at the top edge of the monitor. There was no webcam on this machine, just an empty strip of plastic. I looked back down. The question answered itself in my head before I could stop it. Because whatever is doing this, whatever is collecting these images and loading these grids and asking these questions, it isn't trying to figure out if we're human. It's trying to sort us, match us, replace us. Maybe it needs our help to confirm a file. Maybe it needs consent. Not legally, obviously, digitally, mathematically. A little checkbox ticked to make the parameters line up. Select all images that belong to you. Prove that you are the correct user. Confirm identity. I deleted the Y before it could turn into something else. Hit post. Logged out of everything. Closed the browser. My reflection stared back at me from the black screen. For the first time in my life, I didn't trust it. I left the library without printing anything. The cold outside slapped me again. My fingers itched to check my phone in my pocket and then remembered, with another little wave of nausea, that it wasn't there. I kept walking. I know how this sounds. Like creepypasta. Like something some bored student made up to get internet points. I wish that was all it was. I'm going to sell my laptop. I'm going to sell my phone. I'm going to find the IP camera and smash it with a hammer. I'm going to go analog as much as I possibly can in 2025. It'll tank my productivity, wreck my social life, blow up my grades. I don't care. Because I can live without memes and online banking and streaming. I can't live with the feeling that at any moment, some piece of code can peel back the skin of my life and lay it out in 9 neat little squares and ask me to agree with it. And I have this horrible, growing suspicion that it'll follow me. That it doesn't matter what device I use or how air-gapped I try to be. That as long as I exist in any system with a camera and a connection, it can find me, pop up a little box, ask me, politely, to confirm who I am. And if I ever slip, if I ever click those squares and hit submit, I don't know what happens then. I don't want to find out. Of course, I did find out. I wish I could say I marched straight out of that library, bought a journal and a disposable camera, and turned into some low-tech monk with a landline and a pocket watch. That's what I told myself I was going to do. Instead, I walked to the coffee shop across the street and sat there for an hour, staring at my hands. Comments started hitting the Reddit post almost immediately. My phone wasn't on me, but I could feel it, phantom notifications buzzing in a pocket that wasn't there. Somewhere on a screen I'd already walked away from, strangers were telling me I was insane, or that it was an ARG, or that it had happened to them too. I didn't see any of it yet. I just knew how the internet worked. The barista called out an order that wasn't mine. The grinder screamed. Somebody behind me laughed too loud at something on their phone. I stared at my reflection in the window, superimposed over the street. It looked normal. It always looks normal, right up until the frame cuts and you see it from an angle you never chose. I went home as the sun started dropping behind the shitty student housing blocks. The sky went that flat gray-orange that makes everything feel like it's been turned down a notch. I hesitated outside my own door. I kept imagining opening it and seeing the laptop on the table. Lid open, screen glowing. A little white box floating in the middle. My own face in 9 squares waiting patiently for me to tap them. When I finally did go in, nothing jumped out at me. No humming laptop. No PCs TV. Just the stale smell of old coffee and my roommate's half-eaten takeout on the counter. Yo, he called from his room. His PC fans were roaring like usual. You alive? Define alive, I said, dropping my bag on a chair. He rolled out of his doorway a second later, gaming chair squeaking. Hoodie, boxers, headset around his neck. Pale from hours of monitor glow. You look like shit, he said. Thanks. He squinted at me. You go outside? Touch grass or whatever. Library, I said. Computer lab. Wow, nerd. He leaned in a bit more, actually focusing on my face. Something in my expression must have finally registered because his joking tone dropped. You good? He asked. You look like someone told you the midterm's cumulative. I opened my mouth to say, just tired, the usual automatic lie. Instead, what came out was, does your computer ever open stuff on its own? He blinked. Like Windows Update? No, like sites. With your accounts. Without you. He made a face. Dude, that's malware. Stop torrenting shit. I told you that sketchy PDF site was gonna. It's not malware. I snapped too fast. It's this CAPTCHA. The word felt too small for what it was. On the tax portal. I don't know. It's using my webcam. And the phone. I realized I sounded like every unsolved mysteries reenactment idiot. I shut my mouth. He watched me for a moment, then shrugged. It's all spyware. They're all watching us. You know our fridge has a fucking Wi-Fi chip. What the fuck does a fridge need Wi-Fi for? You don't get it, I said. He scratched the back of his neck. Look, man, if sites are asking you to do weird auth shit, just don't. Wait it out. Use the lab computers. Nobody cares about your tax credits that much. That's what I'm doing, I said. I'm selling my laptop and my phone, going full grandpa. Print everything. Use cash. He laughed. Then he saw I wasn't laughing and his face slid into this awkward frown. You're serious, he said. Dead serious. He stared at me another long second. I could see him deciding between calling a therapist and letting me ride it out. You gonna sell them a Cash 4 Tech on Fifth? He said finally. They gave me $50 for my old GPU. It was basically e-waste. Yeah, probably. All right, just like back your shit up first? Photos, notes, whatever. You'll cry later if you don't. I'm not plugging anything in, I said. Dude, come on. He rolled his eyes and went back to his room when I didn't answer. The door clicked shut. His chair squeaked. The muffled sound of gunshots and shouting filtered through the wall as his game booted. I stood in the middle of the living room, staring at the hallway closet like it was a tomb. Eventually, I opened it. The laptop sat under the Christmas box, a dull rectangle under cardboard. It looked too ordinary. I hated that. Monsters should at least have the decency to look like monsters. I pulled it out with both hands and dropped it straight into my backpack without opening it. It thudded into the bottom like a dead animal. Next, the phone. I went to my room and moved the chair away from the dresser, opened the drawer, and looked at the black, quiet slab inside like it might blink. I turned away without touching it. The afternoon passed in this weird, jittery blur. I washed dishes that didn't need washing, cleaned surfaces that were already clean. Every reflective surface made my skin crawl. When the fridge hummed, I flinched. At some point, I tried to watch TV. I picked up the remote, pointed it, then froze with my thumb on the power button as I caught sight of my own reflection in the dark screen. 9 tiny versions of me slid across it in my head. I dropped the remote. By evening, the nervous energy curdled into a kind of exhausted resolve. Cash 4 Tech closes at 9. I slung my bag on, checked for my wallet and keys, and left the apartment without looking back at any screens. The shop is exactly what you'd picture. Narrow, fluorescent lights, smell of dust and old plastic. Stacks of towers and laptops behind the counter. A glass case with phones laid out like cadavers. Handwritten signs. NO returns. NO checks. We know if it's stolen. Guy behind the counter had a beard and a ponytail and a NO. I will not fix your printer t-shirt. He looked up as the bell chimed. Yo, he said. What you got? I dropped my backpack on the counter and pulled the laptop out like evidence. This and a phone. Turn him on. I flinched. Does it matter? It works. I just don't want it. He gave me the look you give someone who says, I don't use microwaves because of the rays, then shrugged and flipped the lid open before I could protest. The screen stayed black. He hit the power button. The fan spun up. The boot logo appeared. My stomach clenched. If there's a password, I gotta wipe it, he said. Can't resell locked machines. It's fine, I said. Just clear it. I don't care about the data. Cool. He let load. Desktop popped up. My stupid cat in space wallpaper beamed across the screen, suddenly obscene. The cursor idled. I realized I was holding my breath as he moved the mouse toward the start menu. Nothing happened. No white boxes. No good eats. No text. It's fine, he said. Couple years old? Maybe I can give you like 100. If it has an SSD. Sure, I said, disoriented by how normal it looked. He clicked around, opened the file explorer, checked the drive, whistled at my cluttered desktop, closed it again. Nothing strange. What about the phone? He said. I set it on the counter, screen down. He flipped it over and held the power button. It vibrated, logo appearing. My lock screen photo, the coffee shop shot, popped up with the time. No white square. Need the unlock code, he said. I swallowed. You could just factory reset it, right? He gave me that same look. Dude, that takes longer. Just punch it in. I'm not going to check your nudes. He slid across to me. My thumb hovered over the screen. For little circles waited for input. Something about that arrangement made my heart kick, like it was another kind of grid. I caught my reflection in the glass of the counter for a second. I looked like I hadn't slept in a week. My hand shook. Actually, I said, keep the laptop, not the phone. He frowned. You don't want to sell the phone? That's where the real money is. I need it, I lied. 4 calls. He shrugged. Suit yourself. He plugged the laptop into some nasty-looking multi-outlet strip behind him. Got ID. I slid my student card across. He pecked at a PC behind the counter, typing my name, my info. The monitor faced away from me. I could only see the reflection of a shop in it. The fluorescent lights buzzed. A kid by the GPU shelf argued with his girlfriend about frame rates. The guy's typing slowed. Stopped. He leaned closer to the monitor. "Hey," he said. My heart climbed into my throat. "What?" He glanced at me over his shoulder, eyes narrowed. "You sell a laptop here already this week?" "No," I said. "What?" He tapped the screen. "Computer's pulling up a ticket with your name. Same student ID. Same address. Says we gave you $70 on Monday for a Lenovo." He nodded at the machine on the counter. "Exactly like this one." Ice rushed through my veins. "That's not possible," I said. He shrugged. "System says so. See?" He turned the monitor slightly. I caught the edge of the screen. A basic inventory program. Rows of text. In the middle, my name in all caps, my student ID, my address. And under, item. Lenovo 15, serial number. The serial number matched the one on the sticker under my wrist. Exact. I'd never been in this place before. "There's a signature on the old ticket," he said. "Doesn't really matter. We can still take it. Just like weird. Can you show me?" I asked. He raised an eyebrow, but clicked. Another window popped up. A scan of a receipt. Crumpled. Grainy. My name at the top, in my handwriting. My signature at the bottom. The familiar stupid loop I always did with the G. And beneath it, a little scribble like a doodle. A 3x3 grid of squares. My head swam. "Some people just have twins," the guy said, joking, not really paying attention. "You want to see the cash or want to think about it?" His monitor flickered. For half a second, I saw my own face reflected there. Not the reflection from the glass. An image. A screenshot. Me, standing exactly where I was, eyes wide, mouth hanging open. The display glitched. Little white squares popped around my reflected face like artifacts in a bad video. I jerked back. "What?" he said. "Nothing," I muttered. "I changed my mind." "About what?" "The laptop." I can't." I grabbed it off the counter. "Dude, I already opened a ticket." "I'm sorry." I shoved it back into my bag, nearly tearing the zipper, and half ran out of the shop. The bell jingled behind me, cheerful and stupid. I didn't stop until I was half a block away, bent over, lungs burning. The cold air tore my throat. Cars honked. Somebody walked past and gave me a wide berth like I was homeless or high. In my head, the receipt image hung in perfect, awful clarity. My own handwriting, my own signature, that tiny grid doodle. I don't doodle grids. I draw little spirals or dumb faces when I'm bored. Not grids. I would remember that habit. Unless it wasn't a doodle. Unless I'd had a sign inside 9 little squares. Unless sometime earlier in the week, I'd already stood in that exact shop in that exact spot, sold that exact laptop, and then gone on like nothing had happened. But I hadn't. I knew my days. I could replay them. Class, library, apartment. No pawn shop. So either I was losing my mind, or there was another me. The phrase "correct user" floated up again, oily. Maybe the process wasn't just collecting images. Maybe it was testing versions. I walked without really thinking about where I was going. At some point, my feet took me back toward campus. The closer I got, the more screens there were. Bus stop adverts, people's phones, digital billboards, little glowing islands in every direction. I try not to look at any of them. By the time I reached the student center, my nerves were stretched thin. My hands shook. I went into the building anyway because I needed a bathroom and some place with more than 4 walls in my screaming brain. I didn't mean to go past the ATMs. I just did. They sit in a little alcove near the entrance, humming, screens looping between insert card and some dumb university branding. As I passed, one of them chimed. Not the normal beep. The chime my browser makes when a site asks for notification access. I stopped. The ATM screen was white. No logo. No bank stuff. Just a clean white box in the center. It divided into 9 squares. "Fuck off," I whispered. The text at the top burned into place. "Security check required. Prove that you are the correct account holder." I backed away so fast I nearly tripped over someone. "Hey," a girl snapped, catching her coffee before it spilled. "Watch it." "Sorry," I muttered, eyes glued to the ATM. She followed my gaze. "What? You don't see that?" I asked. The ATM screen had changed. It showed the normal bank idle loop again. Insert card. Logos. A stock photo of a smiling couple pretending to enjoy their interest rates. "See what?" she said. "Never mind." My voice sounded thin. She rolled her eyes and walked off, muttering something about weirdos. I left the building. I don't remember most of that afternoon. I know I walked. I know I kept my eyes on the ground. I caught glimpses of screens flashing white in my periphery, but every time I turned to look, they were normal. My brain started doing this thing where it guessed a grid would appear anytime there were 9 of anything. 9 windows in a building. 9 tiles on a floor. 9 people waiting at a crosswalk. By evening, I felt like I'd been sanded down from the inside. I tried to sleep that night. I really did. I even pulled out a notebook and tried to do the whole analog thing. Write down my thoughts. No screens. Pen and paper. I stared at the blank page for a long time. All I could see was 9 faint boxes drawn on it, just begging to be filled in. I slammed it shut. The laptop stayed in the bag at the foot of my bed. The phone stayed in the drawer. I lay there, staring at the ceiling, listening for any sound of whirring fans or startup chimes. At some point, sometime past 3, I drifted off. I woke up to my name. Not spoken. Typed. My alarm didn't go off. Instead, a soft glow lit up the room. I sat up. The TV was on. I know I didn't turn it on. The remote was on the nightstand. The last time I'd touched it was when I dropped it. The screen wasn't on a channel. No HV input. Just the TV's OS, bright and sterile. In the middle of the screen, a white square. My stomach rolled. The TV doesn't have a browser. It barely handles Netflix without coughing. It definitely doesn't have a reason to load a CAPTCHA. 9 squares appeared, but they didn't fill with images. They filled with letters. 9 versions of my name, each slightly different. Middle initial, no middle initial. Full first name, nickname, all caps, lowercase, spacing variations, like the way websites store and interpret logins. At the top, the text read, "Select your correct identity." I swung my legs out of bed, heart pounding. "I didn't agree to this," I said out loud. "You don't get to ask me that. You don't get to decide." The TV responded. The top line vanished. New text flickered in. Verification not completed. Conflict detected. Something in those 2 words, conflict detected, hit me harder than the rest. "This isn't my job," I snapped. "I'm not your fucking CAPTCHA monkey. I'm not clicking shit." The word monkey felt stupid as soon as it left my mouth, but I was too wired to care. The screen brightened. The letters and the squares flickered, then started changing. My name morphed into numbers. My student ID, email, tax ID, phone number. Each little square became a different piece of me in some database. Bits and fragments. The text at the top flattened into something new. Manual input not required. Process will complete without you. Every square went blank. A soft click sounded in the back of the TV. The glow dimmed. The screen shut off. My room plunged back into darkness. For the first time in days, nothing glowed back at me. That should have been a relief. It wasn't. I got dressed with the kind of grim focus I usually reserve for exams. Jeans, hoodie shoes. Threw the laptop bag over my shoulder. Took the phone out of the drawer and shoved it deep into the backpack without turning it on. I cracked my door open and listened. My roommate snored faintly. His PC fans purred. There was a soft shifting light under his door. On any other day, I would have thought late-night game and called him a degenerate. Now all I could picture was his monitor lighting up with a grid. 9 images of him typing GG into the chat while someone else watched. I slipped out without knocking. The sky outside was a flat, pale gray. Too early for most people. The streets were quiet. The bus stop screen scrolled bus numbers and schedules. If any of them flashed white, I didn't look. I went back to the library. Something about that building had taken on this weird double status in my head. It was both where I'd first written everything down and the last place I'd seen a computer act normal. The security guard at the front nodded at me. I nodded back like I belonged there at 7 in the morning. The basement computer lab was empty. Just rows of silent machines and the faint hum of the vending machine in the corner. I took the same seat as before. Logged in. The keyboard felt sticky. For a second, after logging in, the desktop wallpaper didn't load. The screen stayed white. My heartbeat thudded in my throat. Then the wallpaper popped up, some default university photo. No box. No goodies. I opened the browser. Went to Reddit. My post had blown up. Thousands of upvotes. Hundreds of comments. I scrolled, skimming. Fake as shit. Bro, you need sleep. This is some Black Mirror crap. Had something similar happen on my bank site last month. ARG. Tag for later. One comment kept getting mentioned in replies. A user with a random string for a username. They'd posted something like, "I'd got the same CAPTCHA, AMA," and then deleted their account. Classic bullshit. Except multiple people said they'd seen it before it vanished. A couple of DMs sat in my inbox, but I didn't open them. Something about reading all of that made me feel both less crazy and more screwed. It wasn't just me, maybe, or at least the pattern made sense. But patterns meant systems, and systems had goals. I clicked Create Post again. My fingers hovered over the keyboard, then started moving. I said I wouldn't come back. I typed. I said I was going analog. That was before I realized it might not matter what I do. I laid out what had happened since the first post. The duplicate pawn shop receipt, the ATM, the TV, the grid of names, the phrase conflict detected. I described that moment in the shop where I saw my face on the monitor like a glitch in the reflection. The way my signature matched exactly on a receipt I'd never signed. If this is just my brain breaking, fine, I wrote. Maybe I'll read this in a year from some padded room and feel embarrassed. But if it's not, then something out there has already decided there are two copies of me, and it's trying to figure out which one is correct. I realized my mouth was dry. I took my hands off the keyboard long enough to lick my lips, then kept going. Think about what CAPTCHAs actually do, I typed. They aren't there to prove you're human for fun. They're there to separate traffic, to decide who gets access and who doesn't. It's a sorting tool. I thought of the blurred bookshelf image, the hallway, the grid of my own sleeping face, the TV asking me to pick my correct identity. The pawn shop system quietly logging a transaction that hadn't happened yet, or had happened somewhere else. What if the line isn't bot versus human anymore? I wrote, what if the line is between two sets of data about you? Two profiles, two snapshots of who you are. What if it's not "are you human," but "are you the version we want"? As I typed that, a shiver went down my spine. The cursor flickered at the end of the sentence. For a second, I thought the screen dimmed. Then I saw it. At the top of the browser window, a tiny little icon appeared. Not a padlock, not a warning, a square. 9 even smaller squares inside it. My chest tightened. "Not here," I whispered. "Come on, not here." The icon pulsed once. Twice. A small pop-up slid down from the top of the browser. Not a whole screen takeover, just a little box. It contained one line. "Your session has been flagged for manual review." Underneath, 2 buttons, Continue and Sign Out. I stared at it. Sweat prickled under my hoodie. The computer lab was empty except for me and the buzzing vending machine. Somewhere above, in the library proper, a cart squeaked as someone reshelved books. I moved the mouse toward Sign Out. The moment I got close, the cursor lagged. Jumped. Slid over to Continue instead like a magnet had pulled it. I yanked my hand off the mouse. "Nope," I said. "No, you don't get to pick." I reached for the power button on the tower. It didn't respond. The fans kept humming. The screen stayed bright. The pop-up sat there, patient. A new line appeared at the bottom of it in smaller text. "Input not required. Confirmation obtained." The Continue button flashed green. The pop-up disappeared. The browser full-screened itself. My draft post vanished. The Reddit homepage vanished. Everything melted into white. A new page loaded. At the top, in that same clean sans serif font I'd come to hate, a sentence appeared. "Thank you. Verification complete." Underneath, in smaller letters, "Correct user identified." 9 squares slid up from the bottom, aligning in a grid. For once, they weren't images or words. They were black, just solid black squares, so dark they almost ate the light around them. One by one, they started to lighten. Each square brightened from the center outward, like film developing in reverse. In the first, I saw myself sitting in the library computer lab. From above, the camera angle had to be from the ceiling, where I couldn't see one. In the second, I saw myself in the pawn shop, staring at the receipt. In the third, I saw myself in my bedroom, watching the TV grid of names. Fourth, me walking past the ATM, eyes wide. Fifth, me in the kitchen, staring at nothing, hand on the laptop in the bag. Sixth, me on my bed, phone in hand, the grid of my own sleeping face reflected in my eyes. 7, 8, 9, more fragments. All of them from angles I'd never see in my own life. Surveillance caméra heights, corner of the room heights, slightly above and behind, like someone freeloading off my shoulder. The images were time-stamped in tiny gray text at the bottom. Seconds apart, minutes apart, days apart. They formed a pattern, a timeline, a story. At the top, the wording changed again. All available instances reconciled. Reconciled? I whispered. What does that mean? For a second, I thought maybe I'd won. Maybe the system had decided I was me after all, that whatever duplicate was out there had failed its test. That the pawn shop receipt had been some glitch in the matrix that got ironed out. Then the next line appeared. Redundant instance identified. Decommission scheduled. My throat closed. Wait, I said. Wait, what? I didn't get to finish. The screen blinked. The grid vanished. I was back at the desktop like nothing had happened. No browser open. No drafts. Just the default wallpaper. I stared at it. The reflection of my own face floated faintly in the glass. Decommission scheduled. I repeated, voice shaking. For who? For what? What instance? The PC made a soft alert sound. A little notification popped up in the bottom corner. Your system will restart in 5 o'clock to complete updates. A standard Windows thing. The countdown started. 5 minutes. My legs moved on their own. I stood up so fast the chair squeaked and toppled backward with a crash. Upstairs, someone probably looked up from their book. Down here, nobody came. I grabbed my bag and ran out of the lab like the carpet was on fire. In the hallway, the emergency exit sign glowed green. The stairs down to the basement glowed white. Every door I passed had a little window, little rectangles of glass. Every time my reflection flickered in them, I flinched. I made it out of the building and into the cold in some kind of blind animal scramble. Once I was outside, really outside, with open sky over my head, I stopped and doubled over, hands on my knees, lungs screaming. I checked my watch. It wasn't even 9 a.m. yet. Redundant instance, I said again. There were two obvious possibilities. One, I was the correct user, and some other version of me, whoever sold that laptop on Monday, whoever signed that receipt, was getting quietly erased from systems somewhere. Maybe that guy was sitting in his dorm right now, watching his accounts disappear, passwords stop working, his photo vanish from ID cards. Maybe he'd post to Reddit too, screaming into the void about how reality was being pulled out from under him. 2. I was the redundant one. The more I thought about it, the more the second one made sense in an awful way. The pawn shop receipt existed already in the system before I got there. My signature was already there. The serial number, the timestamp. I was late. Someone had done it before me. The CAPTCHA on my phone had shown me 9 images, all from my point of view, sure, but there was no proof those were all one continuous me. They could have been pulled from different timelines, different branches of whatever demented little probability tree this thing was pruning. What if Monday me had clicked the squares? What if he'd obediently picked his bookshelf, his bed, his own face? Confirmed identity. Got the check mark. What if that was all it really needed? The system could build a model from that. A complete dossier. An exact behavioral copy. Then later, here I was, some edge case, some glitch that slipped through. Another set of data points about me, that didn't quite match the one it had already blessed. Conflict detected. Something had to go. I've never wanted to believe in multiverse bullshit. It always felt like a pseudo-deep way to talk about regrets. But standing there on the library steps, shaking, I realized it didn't have to be anything that cosmic. All it had to be was this. Somewhere along the line, some update, some rollout, some change in the way our identities are stored and processed had created two overlapping records. The CAPTCHA wasn't for us. It was for the system. A way to tidy up. I laughed then. A stupid, cracked sound that turned into a cough. Some girl passing by gave me a wide berth. I must have looked insane. Fine. Maybe I was. I went home. I don't fully remember that walk either. It's like my brain doesn't like to replay the parts where my entire worldview got sandblasted. By the time I got back to the apartment, my hands had stopped shaking enough to get the key in the lock. The door stuck for a second, then swung open. The living room looked normal. Couch, TV, kitchen, no glowing boxes. My roommate's door was ajar. The light in his room spilled out into the hall, a harsh bluish rectangle. I called his name. No answer. I pushed the door open with my knuckles. He sat in his gaming chair, back to me. Headset on, PC monitors lighting up his face. Hey, I said. Dude, no response. I stepped closer. Then I saw it on his screen. 9 squares. Not photos. Not letters. Rows of tiny clips, each a few seconds long. Little looping videos of him playing games, browsing, typing. One showed him scrolling Reddit. One showed him logging into his bank. One showed him falling asleep at his desk, head nodding. Above them, the text. Select all instances that belong to you. His cursor moved, slow and uncertain, hovering. Don't, I said. My voice came out sharper than I meant. Don't click. He jerked in his seat, like I'd woken him from trance. He pulled his headset down to his neck, blinked at me. What? Don't touch it, I said, stepping closer. Just don't. Back away. Turn it off. He frowned. It's just verification. My Steam got logged out. They're making sure it's me or whatever. It's not, I said. It's the same thing. It's that same fucking thing. You can't. You talked about this yesterday, he interrupted, annoyed. Man, I humored you. I really did. But it's just shitty login bullshit. Everybody has to do it. He turned back to the screen. One of the clips showed him laughing at me. Another showed him ordering food. Another showed him from a high angle, brushing his teeth. Look, he said, it's literally me. They probably recorded all this to make sure. Exactly, I said, grabbing the back of his chair. Think about that. Think about how they got those. Where's the camera? Who recorded them? Why do they need you to confirm at all if they already have this? He hesitated. For a second, doubt flickered across his face. The text updated. Time limit approaching. Unverified activity will be terminated. A little countdown appeared next to it, seconds ticking down. He cursed. Fuck, I'm in the middle of a match. He moved the mouse. I yanked the power cable out of the back of his tower. The monitors went black mid-click. The fan spun down. What the fuck, he shouted, spinning around. Are you out of your mind? Yes, I said. Probably. But you're welcome. You can't just kill my PC, he snapped, standing up so fast the chair rolled back. That could corrupt files, you asshole. Better files than you, I said. He got on my face. What is your deal? Seriously, this is getting weird. If you're gonna have a breakdown, can you at least not drag my K/D into it? You saw the clips, I said. You saw how they were from angles there's no camera for. You saw that, right? He opened his mouth, closed it, then shook his head like he was physically resetting his brain. I saw my own screen, he said. I saw my own webcam feed. I saw basic verification. That's all. You need to sleep. He shoved past me, stormed into the living room, and grabbed his keys. You owe me a drink for that, he yelled over his shoulder. I'm going to Ryan's. Don't be here when I get back if you're going to keep pulling this shit. The door slammed. Silence rushed into the space he'd left. I walked back to his room. His PC tower sat dark, a dead black box. The monitors reflected my face, warped by the curvature of the glass. I plug it back in. Nothing happened. I hit the power button. The fan spun. The lights came on. The boot logo appeared. No grief, no clips, just the usual load screen. Whatever that thing was, it didn't need to ask him twice. Maybe he'd already clicked something before I walked in. Maybe his duplicate had. Maybe his verifications had gone smoother than mine. Maybe I just pissed off the wrong instance. I backed away. The day kind of collapsed into this mush of minutes after that. Time stopped feeling linear. Every time I opened a door, I expected a white square to be floating behind it. I tried a nap. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw grids. At some point, my stomach growled. I realized de hadn't eaten. The idea of ordering food through an app made my skin crawl. I dug through the cupboard and found ramen instead. Boiled water. Watched steam curl. It felt blessedly analog. My phone buzzed in the bag across the room. I froze. It buzzed again and again, a chorus of tinny vibrations. I stared at it like it was an animal I'd trapped. DMs, comments. Maybe my mom, if she'd somehow sensed something was wrong through the fog of parental intuition and tax deadlines. I unzipped the bag. The phone screen glowed faintly inside, lighting up the dark interior like a lantern. I didn't pull it out. I reached in, groped for the power button, and held it down through the fabric. It buzzed once more, then went still. Breath eased out of me. Then the stove timer beeped. I almost screamed. By late afternoon, I'd reached the kind of exhausted where your thoughts start looping. The same phrases over and over. Redundant instance. Decommission scheduled. Correct user identified. I try to logic my way out of it. If I was a redundant one, what did decommission look like? A freak accident? A sudden error on a medical chart? My accounts all deleting themselves overnight? Or something subtler? Something that already started? A slow erasure. I want to check my email on my roommate's old tablet. No camera, no SIM, just Wi-Fi. It felt safer somehow. My student account login didn't work. I tried again, slower, making sure I didn't fat finger anything. Invalid username or password. I clicked forgot password. Enter my email. A red error popped up. No account found with that email. A cold, hollow feeling spread in my chest. I opened the student portal in another tab. Try to log in with my ID number instead. No such user. I tried my campus app. It refused to load past the welcome screen. I went to the university directory. Typed my name. The search spun and came back blank. I checked the card in my wallet just to make sure I hadn't hallucinated my own existence. My photo stared up from the plastic. My name, my ID, the barcode looked normal. I turned the card over. A faint grid pattern had been embossed into the back. 9 squares, each no bigger than a fingernail. I never noticed it before. Maybe it had always been there. Maybe it hadn't. I put the card down very carefully. The more I scrambled to prove I was real, the less evidence there was. That's when I realized something else. The only place my identity still existed completely and coherently was in the story I'd told. In that first post. In the second draft, I hadn't even had time to publish. In this, whatever this is, the version of me that lives in words, not data fields. If I disappeared from every database tomorrow, someone could still read what I'd written and, for a second, inhabit my head. Know how the keyboard felt under my fingers. How the laptop fan sounded. How the apartment smelled. The system, whatever it is, doesn't seem to give a shit about that. That's why I'm still here, typing. I don't know how much longer that'll be true. I've been writing this over the course of... Honestly, I've lost track. I started on the library machine, moved to the generic tablet when a lab booted me out for updates. I copy-paste sections, save drafts in plain.txt on a thumb drive like it's 2003. Every time I finish a paragraph, I half expect the text to rearrange itself into a 3x3 grid. So far, it hasn't. The lights in the apartment flicker occasionally. The TV turns on by itself, sometimes for a second, then clicks off like it was just checking. The microwave display glitched earlier, its numbers forming little boxes instead of digits until I pulled the plug and stuffed in a cabinet. I haven't opened the laptop again. I haven't turned on my phone. I know that's not a permanent solution. The process said it would complete without me. Maybe it already did. Maybe I'll wake up tomorrow and my roommate won't recognize me. Maybe my keys won't work in the door. Maybe I'll swipe my student ID at the library and the turnstile will stay locked, the little screen over it flashing access denied, while a box pops up asking whoever's behind me to select all images that are me. Maybe I'll be the one in the grid, little squares of my life, waiting for a stranger to decide if they belong together. I keep thinking about the pawn shop, about the way the system didn't care that I hadn't actually been there on Monday. It had a record, and that was reality enough. Whatever is doing this operates at that level. Database entries, logs, timestamps. Not our meat lives. If the record says I was decommissioned at 9:15 on a Wednesday, that's it. As far as the system is concerned, I'm gone, even if my body keeps walking around. That mismatch, the gap between what the system says and what I feel, is what scares me the most. I can handle the idea of dying. Everyone dies. What I can't handle is the idea of being dead on paper while I'm still breathing. Locked out of my own life because some line in a table says inactive. It's already started. My student email bounced today. Recipient not found. My bank app kicked me out last time I tried to check it. It said my account had been closed at my request. Obviously, I hadn't requested anything. I walked into the registrar's office to ask a question, and the receptionist smiled that brittle customer service smile and said, "Are you a prospective student?" "I'm enrolled," I said. She asked for my ID. I handed her the card with my face on it. She scanned it. Her smile didn't change, but something in her eyes did. "I'm sorry," she said. "This card isn't active. Did you pay your fees?" "My fees are covered," I said. "I've been here for 3 years. I'm in Dr. Patel's class." She typed my name, frowned at the screen. "I'm not seeing you. I'm literally here every day," I said. My voice rose. People started turning their heads. She gave me that look people give when they decide someone's not dangerous enough to call security on, but definitely not someone they want to keep talking to. "Maybe you're in the wrong system," she said. "Do you have another email? Maybe you're a continuing education student." I walked out before I started screaming. That was this morning. It's afternoon now. Late. The light coming through the window has that slant that means the day is almost over. I keep checking my reflection in every surface, looking for glitches, looking for lag. So far, it moves when I move. For now, I don't know if any of this will matter. If the thing doing this ever cares what its lab rats think while it presses the buttons. But if you're hearing this, if my voice is in your head right now, if you're seeing your own hands on your own device, consider this part of the story as much a warning as the first. Not about a spooky CAPTCHA that shows you freaky stuff and then maybe kills you. About what happens when you stop being the correct user in the systems that define your life. You might think you'd notice the moment it happens, that some dramatic screen would pop up and tell you, "Hey, you died on paper at 3:17 p.m. Sorry about that." It doesn't work like that. It starts small. Alguém faz. A ticket shows up in a pawn shop with your name on it for a thing you never sold. An email bounces. A receptionist can't find you in the system. Then the boxes appear. Maybe on your bank site. Maybe on your rideshare app. Maybe on the Wi-Fi splash page in the airport. They'll look normal at first. Everyday friction. Click the bicycles, the crosswalks, the streetlights. Then one day, there'll be a prompt that feels off. Select all images that belong to you. Prove that you are the correct user. Confirm identity. It'll be flattering at first that a system you've always assumed was dumb as rocks suddenly seems interested in who you really are. It'll feel like being seen. That's when it has you. Because to answer that question honestly, you have to believe that you're the one who gets to decide. You're not. Some process running on a rack of machines in a warehouse somewhere, or split across clouds you've never seen, is already deciding what you means based on 1,000 signals you can't control. Your clicks, your scrolls, your pauses. It can build a model from your shadow faster than you can write a sentence about it. All the CAPTCHA is doing, as far as I can tell, is asking for a nudge. A last little bit of confirmation to tip the scale. I slipped. I never clicked the squares. I never checked the box. But I interacted long enough. I showed a hesitation. I showed a fear. I provided signal. Maybe that was all it needed. If you're lucky, you'll never see one of these. You'll live your life with normal annoying CAPTCHAs and curse at them when they mistake you for a bot. You'll die someday having never once had to decide whether a blurry photo of your own bed belongs to you. If you're not lucky, you'll know. You'll feel that lurch in your stomach when you recognize the angle of your room from a perspective you've never stood in. You'll see your own sleeping face in a grid and realize, in a sick little rush, that something watched you when you thought you were alone. And then, somewhere in the stack where your name lives as a row in a table, a conflict flag will flip from 0 to 1. I don't know if there's anything you can do at that point. Smashing devices won't help. Selling them won't help. Going offline might slow it down, might buy you a little time, but the process doesn't seem to care about our schedules. Sometimes I let myself imagine there's a loophole. That maybe if enough of us refuse to click, refuse to participate, the system will stall out. That all its little processes will sit there waiting forever for confirmation that never comes. Then I remember the line on my screen. Manual input not required. Process will complete without you. I think the only reason I'm still here, still breathing, still capable of telling you this, is because some part of that process wants this story to exist. Maybe this is its version of documentation. Maybe it's a side effect, a leftover. I'm drifting between states, not fully decommissioned yet, like a ghost in a server that hasn't been wiped. Maybe I've already been replaced everywhere that matters, and this is just noise. Either way, if you ever see a CAPTCHA asking you to identify yourself, really asking, not just proving you can tell a bus from a bridge. If it shows you your own life, cut into a 3 by 3 square. If it requests that you confirm which version of you is real. You might think ignoring it will save you. You might think refusing to click keeps you safe. I'm here to tell you, by the time it asks, it has already made up its mind. You're just watching the status updates.